Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about knowledge areas. What are knowledge areas? Knowledge areas are actually the subject categories of project management theory. Project management processes belong to different knowledge areas. As you know, they belong to process groups, but they also belong to knowledge areas. Each knowledge area focuses on a specific project management aspect. Let's see what they are. The first knowledge area is called project integration management. I will just list all of them and then we'll talk about them one by one. Project scope management, project schedule management, project cost management, project quality management, project resource management, project communications management, project risk management, project procurement management, and project stakeholder management. 10 knowledge areas. As you may have noticed, I marked 6 of them with blue and left the rest of them in black. So for those marked in black, we are going to review those areas briefly in this lesson. However, for those areas that I marked with blue, we are going to have dedicated lessons for each of those knowledge areas. I'm doing that not because I underestimate the importance of the areas that are marked with black. I just thought that for the purpose of our crash course, we can go through the areas marked in black with more intensity without impacting the overall level of understanding. And for areas marked with blue, there are certain things that I want us to learn in more detail. That's the only reason why. Process metrics. So this is just an illustration to show you that each project management process belongs to a group, to a process group, and to a knowledge area. Let's look at the first square, develop project charter. That's a process that belongs to initiating process group, and at the same time it belongs to project integration management. Not each process group has processes from each knowledge area. For example, as you can see in this picture, there are no scope management processes in the initiating process group. And we can do the same mapping for all the processes in project management methodology. The first knowledge area is called project integration management. And probably there is a good reason why it is the first knowledge area described in the PMBOK and the first knowledge area that we are going to review right now. Because this is the core knowledge area. That's the area that deals with bringing things together. With orchestrating things on our project, with engaging and disengaging processes. So project integration management includes processes focused on the coordination of project elements and activities, management of competing objectives, selecting alternatives. Integration management includes development of the project charter and project management plan, management of change requests, management of project execution, monitoring and controlling process work, and implementation of project closure. So pretty much everything, as long as we can engage processes from other knowledge areas. Let's have a look at project integration management processes. The first process is called develop project charter. It is a process from the initiating process group. Just to remind you, what is project initiation? Project initiation is when we state the intention to implement certain project. We present materials related to that project, all the materials that we know, and we receive the authorization to proceed with the project. And that's when we begin our planning. That's when the initiation ends and planning begins. The result of the initiating phase is the authorization to proceed with the project. So as one of project initiating processes, develop project charter process is the process that creates a document that serves the purpose of receiving the authorization to proceed. As such, project charter includes the following topics: project objectives, what are we going to implement on the project; project purpose and justification, why are we going to do what we are going to do; high-level requirements. We don't know the detailed requirements at this point, but we know high-level requirements and we list them in our project charter. Known risks. There are some risks that we know upfront. Of course, as we go further, we meet with the team, we identify new risks, and we put them in our risk register or risk log. At this point, we only mention the high-level risk. High-level milestones. What are the specific milestones that we are planning to achieve as we go with our project? And project budget. And of course, this is just an estimation, how much money we think we have or how much money we think we need in order to implement our project. So this is the project charter. The next process, which belongs to the planning process group, is called Develop Project Management Plan. Some people confuse between the project management plan and project schedule. And the confusion does not necessarily come from project managers. In many cases, senior executives ask project managers, can you show me your plan? I want to see your project plan. In fact, they want to see the schedule. They want to see what happens when, and they call it project plan. And the project managers guess what the request is, and they show them the Gantt chart, or they show them the schedule. And this satisfies the request. Project management plan is not the same as project schedule. Some people confuse, but it's not the same. It integrates management plans by knowledge area, and those plans are called subsidiary management plans. Those plans can be included in the overall project plan document as chapters, or they can be referred to from the project management plan that includes just some of the subsidiary plans. The subsidiary management plans summarize the planning processes for each knowledge area and include courses of action on each direction of project management. For example, communications management plan outlines who will be included in what communication, how often, through what means, and how the communications will change if needed. And the same happens with other project management plans. Similar structure. We'll go through it later. In addition, the project management plans include project baselines, for example, scope baseline, cost performance baseline, and schedule baseline. Remember, triple constraints: schedule, budget, and scope. Baselines are created and adjusted as a result of project planning activities. Project health and deviations from the plans are measured against its baselines. So the baseline is the final plan. For example, schedule baseline is the final project schedule. And if we see that something needs to change, we adjust the baseline. Of course, it goes through the change request. We'll see what the change request is in a moment. So the baselines can be adjusted, and then the latest baseline becomes our actual baseline. Project integration management other processes are direct and manage project work. So this is probably the core process when we act on the plan. So we have the project management plan with all the knowledge areas included in it. We have the course of action, and we act on the plan. We direct and manage project work according to the plan. This is an executing process. Manage project knowledge. As we go with the project, we learn things. We learn that certain activity takes this much time. We learn that certain risks apparently don't exist or exist. We learn that certain area restriction, industry restrictions apply. So the more we learn, the more knowledge database we create, and that needs to be documented. So the creation of that knowledge database, as well as the use of the knowledge database from previous projects, which we also do, right? We take lessons learned from the previous projects and we use that. So this is included in manage project knowledge process. Monitor and control process work, another core process. As you will see as we go through this course, for pretty much for each knowledge area, we have monitoring and controlling processes. We monitor and control our schedule, our costs, our scope. So we have monitoring and controlling processes, and they are engaged through the overall monitor and control project work process that belongs to the integration management knowledge area. Perform integration change control, monitoring and controlling process. So this is the process of issuing a change request. How does it work? If we see that the change is required, and we'll go through the specific details in the next slide, but if we know that a specific change is required due to some circumstances, our stakeholders, for example, say, you know what, we don't need this feature anymore, instead we would like to implement this. then the project manager says, wait a minute, we have our budget approved, we have our schedule developed. We need to see if we can include this change into our scope. And then we engage the process of integrated change control. We create a change request and we look at all the triple constraints, trying to see if we can afford it in terms of time, in terms of budget. We also look at other restrictions. We see if there are any risks as a result of the new feature implementation. And this is all part of the integrated change control. And the last process is called close project or phase. Here we go through the closing activities. We document lessons learned. We make sure that all the contracts are closed. We make sure that all the team members are released, and we make sure that all the project information is stored properly. There are no outstanding project activities. All of that is part of our closure when it comes to closure of the project. For each particular phase, we also have protocols to make sure that the closing criteria for the phase is met, that we can make sure using the checklist that we are meeting all the closing criteria for the phase. Now I would like to say a few more words about a change request. So what is a change request? Project requirements can change due to a number of reasons over the course of progressive elaboration. Could be the risks that we identify, could be insufficient funds, could be insufficient time, could be stakeholder priorities that are changing. All of a sudden there is a new requirement. Change requests go through the integrated change control process when the overall impacts are estimated. Somebody says, we want to implement a new feature. Okay, so we decide if we can or cannot implement that feature. How much extra time will it require? Will this extra time impact the overall duration of a project? Will this extra time impact our costs? Can we absorb the costs or can we not? So all those things need to be considered. Are there any new risks that arise as a result of this implementation? So if the change request is approved, cost, schedule, and scope baseline may have to be adjusted. Sometimes they don't have to be adjusted, but most of the time they do have to be adjusted. Approved changes are typically preventive, undertaken to prevent, or corrective, undertaken to fix. So preventive changes are those that we undertake in advance before certain things happened. Corrective actions are those that we undertake after we see that there is a problem, there is an issue, there is a deviation, and then we fix certain things. There are two categories: preventive action and corrective action. Project quality management. That's another knowledge area that I want to talk about in this lesson. So what is project quality management? Project quality management is not the same as quality assurance. When we hear quality, we immediately think about, especially people from IT industry, we think about QA, we think about testers, we think about testing of a product or service. It is partially true, but project quality management is not only the quality assurance for the product or service. Project quality management includes processes that establish quality standards and requirements for both the project and the product or service that it produces. Establish quality standards, right? Perform quality assurance to audit the quality requirements and to make sure that the established standards are met. And record quality assurance results and determine if any changes are required. So basically we plan something, right? We execute something and we control something. We'll see what the quality management processes are. As you may recall, project quality is one of the 6 project constraints, right? Project quality and product quality are vital for customer satisfaction and project success. The quality of the project and the quality of what we produce. So here are the processes that belong to project quality management knowledge area. Plan quality management. This is a planning process. The major outcome of this process is the quality management plan, one of the subsidiary plans. It is developed through reviewing the project scope and obtaining stakeholder inputs in consideration of other project risks, cost, schedule, environmental and organizational factors, and project tasks. And by doing so, we establish the plan, what our quality standards are and how we are going to manage our quality, how we are going to audit our quality to make sure that we are not deviating from what we planned. Manage quality, it is an executing process. This process implies the actual application of quality policies and audits over the course of the project. As the output, we receive quality reports, audit result documents and checklists, potential changes to the project management plan, and change requests. The focus is on the quality of processes. So when we implement manage quality process, we act on the quality management plan that we prepared when we were planning our quality management. Again, just want to remind you that the planning process is iterative. So if we see that something is wrong with our plan, we come back to the plan, we adjust it. We apply change requests, we adjust our quality plan. Control quality. This is a monitoring and controlling process. In this case, we are dealing with the quality of project deliverables. So we apply quality assurance activities that focus on the quality of the project scope items. And we'll talk about project scope in the next lesson. Because project scope is not only the scope of our product, it's all the work that we do on our project. A few words about project procurement management. It's not a project management knowledge area. What is project procurement? Project procurement focuses on purchases from outside of the project team and involves administering contracts and related obligations. So procurement deals with a lot of paperwork, contract negotiation. Procurement is always about contracts, about agreements, about statements of work, about requests for proposal, and so on and so forth. Purchases may include products, services, or results. When it comes to project procurement, organizations act as buyers or sellers, right? Somebody offers services, somebody acquires services. In many cases, project procurement is handled by a dedicated department within an organization, yet requires project management involvement. So for small organizations, project managers may be the ones taking care of all the procurement. Maybe they are skilled enough to create contracts. For other organizations, legal departments review contracts, but project managers are also involved to make sure to keep an eye of what is included, to make sure that in terms of the actual work that a vendor, for example, offers to your project, they offer exactly what we are looking for, because project manager is acting on behalf of a buyer, or in other situations on behalf of a seller. Project manager represents one of the sides of the contract. Procurement documentation includes contracts, requests for proposal, RFPs, statements of work, SOW, proposals, bidding documentation, bills of materials in case of materials on the project, and more. So there could be different types of documents. It's all part of the project procurement management. Here are the processes, project management processes related to project procurement. Plan procurement management. This process involves analysis of what will be purchased versus done by the project team, make or buy analysis. In some cases, we analyze if it makes more sense to order things from an external vendor rather than develop them internally. Most of the time, money is the key consideration for that. What types of contracts will be awarded, how vendor bids will be conducted, and how vendors will be approached. All those considerations are included in Plan Procurement Management process and in the Procurement Management Plan, the document that results from this process. Conduct procurement, executing process. This is the set of the actual actions on the procurement plan. So we have the procurement plan, we act on the plan. It involves bidder conferences, proposal, evaluations, work estimates, contract negotiation, and signing the actual purchasing. Of course, not all of this applies for every particular project, but some of it may apply for one of the projects that you manage. Control procurement, monitoring and controlling. How do we control procurement? This process involves the control of contract performance, managing client-vendor relations, and making relevant adjustments, applying changes as needed. Yes, we can also, as we go through the project, we can see that some of the procurement mechanisms that we planned do not necessarily work. And in that case, changes may be required, and then we may adjust our procurement management plan. Here is another comment related to project procurement: types of contracts and statements of work. So there are three major types of contracts. Of course, there could be more, but the three major types of contracts that I would like to tell you about. The first one is called fixed price contract. A fixed price is a contract where the price is set for a determined product or service that will be provided by the seller. So for example, we say, okay, we implement this feature for you, and we don't charge you for the time that we work. It doesn't matter how much effort we spend, it will cost you $20,000. And this approach is risky for the seller. Let's say I'm the seller, my organization is the seller. I say, I'm selling this feature for you for $20,000. And then I end up spending twice as much time as I was planning. So the risk is mine. I may have to pay my employees more, but I'm selling it to the buyer for $20,000. That's why when people work with fixed price contracts, most of the time, the seller puts some contingency into the price, so that in case if there is extra work, that contingency would cover for the extra work. Cost reimbursable. The seller receives a profit plus reimbursement for all costs associated with the work on the project. For example, I'm developing a feature, but in order for me to develop a feature, I need to buy some materials. I need to purchase a few things. So I'm asking the buyer to compensate. I'm giving them the bills. I'm saying, here's what I bought. Please compensate me for the bills and please pay me for my work. That's a different type of contract. And finally, time and material. It combines features of both, plus the value of the contract can change over time. The seller is paid for the hours worked on the project. It is more protection for the seller. So unlike I explained to you for the first contract, in case of time and material, I have 10 people working on my project. Each of them works 20 hours, and I am charging the buyer for pretty much every single hour that my people spend on the project. And then I guarantee that I will have some margin if I sell my feature this way. On top of that, there are statements of work. What is the statement of work? That's the document that is typically signed after the contract between the buyer and the seller is already signed. And this document states what the vendor or the seller will be offering to the buyer, what type of work. This is a document that applies when the seller offers a service. So the statement of work is pretty much the same as an internal requirements document that outlines the work that will be done on the project. So this is the statement of work that comes from the seller. It is an external document and it needs to be reviewed by either a procurement department or by the project manager and the team. Types of the statement of work. Performance defines what the final product will be able to do, how it will perform. So in that case, the statement of work only says, here is what your product will be doing. It doesn't provide any additional details. It's basically the specification for the final product. Functional defines product or service characteristics. It defines in detail the characteristics of the product itself, not just the final product, what it will be able to do, but what features it has. And design. This is probably a more detailed statement of work that typically defines in a very strict way what work needs to be done. For example, in case of a construction project, this is the best approach, to have the design statement of work with very detailed description. And one more project management knowledge area that I would like to discuss with you in this lesson, it is called project stakeholder management. Project stakeholder management processes deal with the identification of project stakeholders and management of their expectations. It has 4 processes. The first one is called identify stakeholders. This is the process of identifying all parties who have interest or who may be impacted by the outcome of our project. Could be people, could be organizations. This is one of the most important project management processes because failure to identify all the stakeholders leads to missing or incomplete requirements or unidentified risks or opportunities, and it could be more impacts. But these impacts are the most obvious. If we don't know all the stakeholders, how can we be sure that our scope is complete? Or how can we be sure that we know of all the risks on our project? Plan stakeholder engagement. That's a planning process. So let's say we know who the stakeholders are. Now we need to know how we are planning to engage them. This is the process of planning the activities that will keep project stakeholders engaged so that their interests would be met and their voices would be heard. It requires detailed classification of stakeholders and analysis of their interests, availability, location, and other factors. I would say the key word here is availability. In so many cases, you know who your stakeholders are, you invite people to your meetings, but they are not available. And as a result, you cannot get their inputs. And the impacts are probably almost as severe as they would be if you wouldn't identify those stakeholders at all. So it's very important to learn about stakeholders' availability and to plan their engagement efficiently. Manage stakeholder engagement process. This is the process of the actual implementation of the stakeholder management plan that was created as the outcome of the planned stakeholder engagement process. And the last process is called monitor stakeholder engagement. Like any monitoring and controlling process, this process deals with the validation of efficiency of project execution activities. In this case, the objective is the efficiency of stakeholder management. Stakeholder engagement is being monitored through communicating with stakeholders and collecting data and comparing it with our plan. Also, the efficiency of the plan itself is being validated. If needed, change requests are created and the plan gets adjusted. So remember, any plan in our project, any component, any subsidiary plan is created as a result of iterative process. If we see that our plan is not efficient, we go through another iteration and improve our plan. We improve our baselines, we improve our plans. Stakeholder management plan is one of the subsidiary project management plans. If we see that it requires improvement, we simply improve it and make our stakeholder management more efficient. And this concludes the third lesson of our course. Thank you very much for watching. See you at the next lesson.